Prepare to be captivated by the business story of the week, hosted by me, Shaheen Shan. Join us on a journey through the twists and turns of entrepreneurial triumphs and setbacks. Immerse yourself in the narrative and witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. This is Business Story of the Week.
And welcome back, folks. Welcome back to Business Story of the Week. I am your host, Joshua, and today we have ourselves quite the guest. I'm pretty excited about the guest today. Like we always do, we talk about perseverance, we talk about struggles, we also talk about success and overcoming those successes and teaching us, and finding that strength and that light in all of us. And she's a perfect guest. She is a multi-talent individual, ladies and gentlemen. She had a diverse career journey. Sandy Grigsby started as a commercial print model, transitioning into personal brand, web design, brand photographer. To today, she is known as the confidence catalyst, right? Overcoming adversity in her own life, from bullying to racism, overbearing control from her father, Sandy has channeled these experiences into empowering others to embrace her self-image. She learned to speak 4 languages, cook, sew, dance, install hardwood floors, race cars, snowboard, build websites, groom dogs. I'm running out of breath. She is a powerhouse. Sandy is a powerhouse, okay? Her passion for photography has led her to discover a talent for capturing stunning portraits of people. And this experience includes over 20 years of online personal brand development and personal branding photography. Today, Sandy is a personal branding creative director, the founder of Brio 5, a boutique personal branding studio, creator of Confidence Jam, a program to develop people's confidence and self-worth, the author of I Am Who I Am, and voted one of the top speakers and branding experts amongst well-recognized industry leaders. Sandy shares the most dynamic tool you can develop to improve your personal brand and online image instantly, and that tool is confidence. And today, Sandy will share that to us and more. Sandy, you look lovely today. Thank you for being on the show. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me, Joshua. I really appreciate it. And that was a lot. I was like, wow, yeah, I forgot about some of that stuff. We need to add some things, though. We missed out a couple.
I do. I think I skipped an entire sentence there because, wow, this is going to be pretty long-winded. And, again, it does not do you justice. There's you competed in pageants, you won scholarship, you studied abroad, you mentored youth, volunteered, worked as a model.
I've lived on 10 continents.
10 continents is amazing.
Not continents. I'm sorry. 3 continents, 10 countries. See, I don't even get it right half the time.
Okay, 3 continents, 10 countries. Before the show, prior to the show, we were talking a lot about you moving around, living around. Yes, you have been around. We need to talk about that. It's quite a diverse journey that you have had, Sandy. But before we get into it, and the way I always do this, I always start the conversation in this interview at the very beginning. Where did it all begin, Sandy? What is the story of Sandy Grigsby from early childhood? What were your experiences and any pivotal experiences and moments in your life that led you to, I am going to be a creative personal branding and I will help people do the same?
That's a really good question. I mean, you gave a lot of information about me, and it did start early on. I'd have to say, because when I was very, very young, I was one of those children that was obsessed by nature and animals.
Right.
I loved animals. I was that kid that would crawl to the nearest animal, dog, whatever. Even if it would bite me, I would smile and go back for more. So being a nature lover, an animal lover, was a big part of who I became, because when you love animals as much as I did, you want to draw them, you want to touch them, you want to be around them. And then that really helped evolve my creativity. So I was very, very creative as a child growing up. But what I had was an overbearing, very strict father. And there are good things to that and there are bad things to that.
Of course.
And where it kind of shifted, he was great when I was little, maybe until about 6 when my brother was born. But then he had his own challenges, given that my father was Black and my mother was white. So I grew up in a biracial family in a very
Right.
mixed part of the United States. I grew up in South San Francisco. And
Right.
so he had his own challenges. And unfortunately, he allowed the pressure of what he was going through to spill into his family life. And so even though I was very creative, I loved to draw, I loved to be outside, I loved to play with animals and other kids. I also was constantly trying to get the approval of my father, who was always either upset or things weren't good enough. Pretty much, he was a perfectionist. And that rubs off on your kids. How you are
Of
as an
course.
adult rubs off on the people who are observing
Of
you. And
course.
I absolutely admired him up until a certain point. And unfortunately, that perfectionism that he had became a part of who I was at a very young age. And
Wow.
it ended up influencing my whole entire life. So moving forward through elementary school, high school, university, I was always striving to be perfect.
Right.
And even though I managed to stay in the creative space, I got a degree in graphic design, visual communications. It was always about being perfect. So all of
Right.
those things that you had listed that I had learned how to do, I did them because I wanted to be
Right.
perfect, that perfect
Right.
friend, that perfect person. I wanted someone to love me because I wasn't getting it from my father. And my mother sort of backed down a little bit because she was also intimidated by my father. So
Right.
that strive to be perfect pretty much guided me in all of the things that happened in my life,
Wow.
good and very, very bad.
Wow. Wow.
So
And
that's how I came to where I am today and helping people with their confidence, because a lack of confidence comes from
right.
the struggles and the trauma that we faced
Of
as young
course.
individuals and from a strive to be perfect. It's perfectionism.
Yes, of course. Of course. And like you said, you wanted to get this validation from all parts of your life, the perfect friend, the perfect, but you didn't mention one thing. You didn't mention the perfect daughter. You wanted to be the
Yeah,
perfect daughter.
I
You
did.
wanted that validation. And by the way, before you share a lot more, it explains a lot, Sandy. Everything that you have done, for languages, all the things that you learn. Wow, it is indeed like a kind of. I mean, it's a common story, right? It would
Yeah.
keep like daughters and having like very overbearing parents, or like it's a very common story. Actually, I'm gonna tell you in Asian children, right? It's a very Asian culture type of like, no, no, you got B, why didn't you get A, right? Just something like that, right? So
Yep.
it's a version of that for you, and you channeled that in different ways. You channeled that in being an overachiever, doing all these things, but it didn't quite, I believe, didn't quite give you all that confidence and that self-value and that self-worth that you were looking for, because you were looking for outside validation. At what point in your life did you realize, where you're thinking like, wow, I did all of this, but it's only for outside validation? I need to start looking inside.
That didn't happen for decades.
Wow.
I was
Wow.
in my late 30s when I finally figured it out.
Mhm.
And what a lot of people don't recognize is they might have a failed relationship, or they may have a hard time making or keeping friends, or something goes wrong in their business, or
Right.
there are a lot of signals that you
Mhm.
actually have a confidence issue before you even recognize it. So
Right.
for me, it was a failed relationship, then another failed relationship, then hard, having difficult friendships, and all of these things just started compounding. And by the time I was in my mid to late 30s, I was like, what is going on? Like,
Yes.
is the universe out to get me? Trying to,
Exactly.
all these things. I went on one of those, I'm going to start meditating and figure my life out, and like all of those things. And the big aha moment came when I had done everything. I mean, I
Right.
became part of Tony Robbins' platinum partner group. I became,
Mhm.
I joined different masterminds. I was
Mhm.
trying to hang out with the best minds and
Mhm.
the people who were considered gurus. And I was in
Mhm.
those circles, and nothing was
Mhm.
really making me feel any better. I
Right.
actually started feeling worse.
Oh.
And I was making a lot of money. So it's not like it was a financial thing. I wasn't feeling broke. I wasn't struggling there. I was making money. I was
Right.
around the right people, and I was getting more and more depressed.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm in my late 30s.
Mhm.
And then I had this realization that everything that I was striving for was the fact that I didn't actually love myself or prioritize myself
There you
over
go.
everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I was
There you
always
go.
trying to get other people to like me or be the best,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't even like myself.
Right. Right.
And when I recognized that,
Mm-hmm.
I had that huge shift in my
Everything
identity,
change. Yes. Yes.
and it changed everything. I changed the way I dressed. I changed the way I
Wow.
carried myself, the way I
Wow.
allowed people to speak to me, the way
Mm-hmm.
I behaved around
Wow.
other people, the way I chose my business. I even
Mm-hmm.
changed the way I worked with my clients. Everything
Wow.
shifted.
Mm-hmm.
And it eventually came to a point where I met the love of my life.
Oh.
I have traveled to so many countries. I lost count of how many I traveled
Mm-hmm.
since then. I actually, just yesterday, I came back from my 50th country. I had to do a
Oh,
count. Number
wow.
50. I hit Cambodia for number 50. But last year, I think I went to, lost track again, 12 different countries. I lived in
Mm-hmm.
6 countries last year. The year
Mm-hmm.
before was like 8. I mean, we went so
Mm-hmm.
many places. And
Wow.
that happened because I realized I had to care about me and prioritize my health, my mental
Mm-hmm.
well being, and how I love myself over everything else.
Wow.
Once you do that, and I'm not talking about in a narcissistic way, I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about making sure that you're healthy, making sure
Of
that you
course.
are
Yes.
mentally sound, making sure that
Yes.
you are putting your own preferences ahead of others, and then you can help others even better.
Yes.
So now I can help people in the way that I've always wanted to, but I'm not setting my own health and my own mindset aside to do it. I'm not
Right.
compromising myself.
And first of all, before I continue to that, 51st, your 51st country should be Philippines, right? We talk a
I
little bit
know,
about
right?
that.
Yes, I think so.
So at 50 countries, we need to add that a little bit more, but looking forward to coming over here, Sandy. But also, you mentioned self-love. What a very common story for most people, right? And it's so much, we realize it's so late as well because we never learned this, right? But it's nothing that's really taught to us growing up. Of course, our parents were to the best of their abilities, did their best as well to raise us, give us everything that we could possibly deserve, but they weren't also taught that concept of self-love where you must love whatever is all your flaws, whatever is inside. You must love that completely, embrace it completely, and everything just falls into place. I love how you put that together because you could be the most successful person in the world, but if you don't love yourself, nothing matters. It really doesn't.
Exactly. That's
And
exactly right. And there's one thing I want to add to the self love because I feel like people misinterpret what that actually means. They
please,
believe self love means accepting everything as it is and being okay.
hmm
I actually don't agree with that.
of course,
Self love is loving yourself so much that you're okay with just hanging out with you and
yes,
then getting off your, pardon my French, getting off your ass and
uh-huh.
doing something that makes you better. And
Yes,
I'm not
yes,
talking about being a perfectionist. I'm talking
hmm
about actively being better. So go
hmm
learn that new skill. Go
hmm
and learn that new language. Go travel
hmm
to that place. Go and say
hmm
hi to someone you haven't spoken to in a while.
yes,
Overcome what you're afraid of. Get past some
absolutely,
of your hangups. Get rid of really bad habits. That
yes.
all falls under the category of self love. And people forget that part.
That is true. That is true. And that is so important because, self love isn't just like, okay, it's just me all the time. But when you really get into real self love, then you start thinking of like, oh, this is what I've been wanting to do my entire life. So I'm going to use that to enrich myself. True self love is actually finding all those things that you will take in and make your life better. And, because now you love yourself, you just want to live a better life, and it's all now your choice, right? As previously you're doing things for outside validation, now
Yes.
you've chosen things to do yourself to enrich your life, and that is a true meaning of self-love. I agree.
Exactly. I get this from moms. Well, I have kids and I always have to prioritize them, blah, 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 blah. Okay, yes. Yes, I agree. But
Mhm.
if you aren't taking care of your health and now
Yes.
you're really tired because you keep putting all your kids' activities and everything else first, you're
hmm
run down, now you're sick. How are you going
right.
to be the best version of yourself for your kid?
That
You
is true.
can't be because now you're going to be irritated. You're going to snap at your kid more. You're going to be tired. You might not be fully alert, which means you have a greater risk of getting in a car accident, forgetting something you need. You actually will spend more money because your mind isn't right. There are so many things that go down when you stop prioritizing your own health, your own well-being for other people. Well, if a mom is, you know what? Okay, I'm going to prioritize my kid, but first I have to do my morning routine. I have to make sure that I am taken care of. I'm eating the right foods and all of these things are in place. Then the mom is sharper, more on it. They're happier, they're healthier. And then that is contagious. The child develops the same habits and everything gets better. And people overlook that because habits, programming, excuses, lack of confidence. They're not confident enough to say, no. I need to do this for me before I can do that for you.
That's beautiful. And this is very relevant because it was a topic from a recent guest. And what he said was, your family doesn't come first. Your sanity comes first.
Yes.
And that's so important, right? Because you cannot, it's so cliche, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give back to your family. So you must enrich yourself first. But it's so common. It's so just, automatic for many people, many parents, who hasn't had that concept of self-love, of putting themselves first. And it's difficult for a lot of parents too. And I'm just happy that there's like a shift, right? There's a shift in the mindset globally, collectively. We're starting to think like, yo, this isn't working. Like none of this is working. Like you said, like all that stuff isn't working. What's wrong? It's because we need to start looking into ourselves and we need to figure out what makes us shine bright. And you talked about this in one of your TEDx, the TEDx in Hopkins, and John Hopkins. You talked about allowing your light to shine the brightest and that you found photography allowed you to capture that light even if they don't see it. I love that part.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that. Talk to us about that journey. What was the first time or the first couple of times where you said like, wow, I can actually help people by just taking photos of themselves?
I would say the most impactful time, because I had been working in photography for quite a bit. I was working with entrepreneurs who had small businesses and I was helping them build their websites and taking their headshots for their websites. So I've been doing that and I was really good at Photoshop because I used to work for some of the top photographers in Los Angeles who taught me how to retouch. So I could take an average headshot and make it look really good. This is all before AI and stuff. And I was doing this regularly and I'd get these attractive women that would come in and it'd be really easy to take their pictures and everything was fine. But then I realized I needed to give back because I had been doing that. I was making really good money doing that. And so I decided to donate sessions to a program called Dress for Success, where they were taking low-income women, teaching them on the job or skills to be prepared to go on the job, and then new outfits for them to actually go and get a job. And I was taking their headshots so that they could have, really nice social media profiles and get that job. And the pivotal moment was I had one woman come in and she was this beautiful woman. She didn't even recognize her own beauty. She just looked tired, just the way she carried herself. And she walks in and she goes, I don't know why I'm here, because they sent her to me. And she goes, I don't know what you're going to do with me. I'm so old. And I looked at her and I was like, how old are you? And she didn't look old to me. She looked great. And I was like, how old are you? She goes, oh, I'm 40. I think she was 47 at the time or something. And I looked at her because I was like 38 or 39. I'm thinking, oh my God, is 47 old? I didn't know it because I'm going to be there soon.
My God.
I said to her, I go, that is not old. And the more I started speaking with her, I realized that everything she had done in her life was put her kids first. She had never prioritized herself. And I actually talk about this in my TEDx talk about how she had 2 sons with cerebral palsy and she prioritized everything for them. She gave her whole life away for them. And she didn't see herself as beautiful. She didn't see herself as powerful or confident. She thought she was old and she wasn't. She had amazing skin. She was such a wonderful lady. And that's when it clicked in my mind that she couldn't see it. And I had to show her. So I had her think of a moment in her life where she knew she was really, really great. And that moment was, I said, if you had to teach a new mom who had a child with a physical disability how to take care of that child, would you be able to do it? And she
Oh,
looked at me with fire in her eyes and she's like, absolutely.
let's
So I
go.
said, think of
Wow.
that moment, close your eyes, take a deep breath. And she did. And I said, now open your eyes. And when she opened
Beautiful.
them, the image was so powerful and so
Beautiful.
radiant. And it was almost like we tore off this identity that
Wow.
she had and we unveiled Wonder Woman. I mean,
Oh,
it just
beautiful.
was so, it was a fire that came out, this
Hmm.
radiance, and her whole energy shifted, her whole
Hmm.
identity shifted into this powerhouse of
Wow.
who she is,
Wow.
but she had never seen. And
Hmm.
once I had captured that, I started to do it again and again and again
Hmm.
in so many women. And then eventually I started doing it for men as well. It was funny. I was
Hmm.
only photographing women, and guys would send me messages saying, hey, I know you work with women only, because my website only marketed to women. They
Okay.
go, but your work is so good. Could you please work? Could you shoot me? Can you take my picture? And I was like,
Oh my God.
okay. And I did
Okay.
it. And again, a shift
Oh.
from like really tall men who would always slouch to be down on the same level as
Hmm.
everybody, to
Hmm.
correcting their posture and showing their confidence, to men who just didn't know how to dress to match their body style or their own preferences. When they
Right.
switch to that, they feel more confident, they look more
Yes.
energetic, they
Wow.
own that sexy that lies underneath, and it
Uh-huh.
just comes across, and it's just this beautiful magnetism that just radiates. So I
Wow.
was able to capture that time and time again.
Wow. And that your title, Confidence Catalyst, really fits now. The way you just talk about that. And Sandy, I must say, it's like it's not just about like you, you know, finding out this kind of sweet spot of helping people because it's beautiful, right? It's very like it must have been like wow, like I can actually help people and they're bringing out themselves and bringing but the enthusiasm that you talk about it, the way that you talk about it, the way that you describe it is really contagious because you not only enjoy your work but you enjoy the fact that you are seeing them evolve in front of their eyes, you're seeing them meet their potential, and that must feel amazing. That must feel like no wonder you love your job.
So I have to tell you, Joshua,
Oh
it
please.
felt so amazing until there
Oh
was an
no.
until.
Oh no.
I started to recognize that the process that I was doing,
Hmm.
which was photography,
Hmm.
wasn't sticking.
Okay.
So I would capture someone and
Hmm.
show how powerful and charismatic and dynamic and radiant and gorgeous and wonderful, all of those beautiful things. I would
Right.
show it to them. They would see it, and then they would fall right back into what they were.
Of
And it
course.
took me a while to understand it. I mean, I was like, I don't get it. I mean, I just showed you what to wear, how to carry
Exactly.
yourself. All this stuff is so powerful. And you see it.
Hmm.
You cry when you see your
Hmm.
pictures. And then
Hmm.
you turn around and just go back to what you were. Why?
Mm.
And that's where I really had a shift in my career
Okay.
and how I marketed myself as well.
Right.
Because
Okay.
it's not just about the photography, it's about
Right.
shifting your identity
Of course.
internally. And
Exactly.
that's where I came up with a whole new process of
There you
taking
go.
someone on a journey so that they can maintain it. And
Right.
that's what's really powerful, because I
Okay.
can take you, Joshua, I can put you in a suit, I can give you a new haircut, I can put some makeup on you, I can
Of
stick
course.
you in front of the perfect lighting, and I can make you stand a certain way. And you can look so fabulous, but can you reproduce that? Because
Precisely.
it's not just a physical thing, it's
Hmm.
also a mindset.
Yes, that is
So
true.
the formula that I have now, that I work with my clients all over the world, I have clients from London, Dubai, Bali, I mean,
Hmm.
India, everywhere, all over
Hmm.
the world. I work with people, Puerto Rico, California, Canada, Texas, you name it.
Hmm.
And the one thing is, I put them through a process of truly understanding themselves. They have to
Right.
see it for themselves before they physically see it in a photograph.
Yes. Hmm.
Then creating a new look and feel for the way that they show up, because we
Hmm.
dress in habits. We dress in the way that we either learned from our parent or from a partner,
Yes. Yes.
or a retail person told us, or what we're comfortable in. It's not true to us often. I mean, it's very rare that
Yes.
you find someone who has their own unique style and is just really living in it. So
Yes.
it's about recreating something or creating something from scratch that's true to you, that you just love. And
Hmm.
then it shifts into actually holding that in terms of your posture, the way you carry yourself, the way
Yes.
you speak, the way you engage, all
Yes.
of those things.
Hmm.
And once you figure all of those things out, then it's the execution. How do you
Hmm.
maintain it in a way that makes it easy and fun for you, so you can now live in that new identity that is
Right.
actually who you are meant to be.
Yes, beautiful. That is beautiful. And you talked about this formula. You talked about it in one of your TEDx in Reno. You talked
Yes.
about the persona of truth about you, and you told. I'm trying to recall the formula. Is first to accept and use the judgment, and choosing these traits, and then presenting these traits in order to come up with a more accurate persona of yourself, a more accurate impression. And this formula, I think, is very important because you are now looking at, okay, what are my values? What is true to me? And then what are traits that I would like for people to see in me? Because then now you can see, like, okay, I can focus on what's really true to myself, and then you could maintain that a lot more. It makes a lot of sense when you say that people kind of lose it right after the photography session because it's just that one session. It may be life changing, but it doesn't mean they have the tools and the formula and, again, the persona to keep it up. Talk to us a little bit about that. And you also have a program called Confidence Jam, and you also have a book. I love the book title, by the way. I Am Who I Am. Are these one of the many tools that you've used, not just for your photography, but again, it's not just about just that one moment, right? It's about that self worth, that self image that you can take throughout your life. Talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Confidence Jam is pretty much a step-by-step process of exactly how to do it all on your own. So
Wow.
Confidence Jam is what people can buy just if they want to do it, walk through it themselves. They don't have anyone pushing them too hard and they just follow the
Mhm.
steps. And
Mhm.
then from there, I also have personal brand focus, which is where I do it with you because
Oh,
sometimes it's
wow.
hard.
Well,
It's hard.
yes, and
But
sometimes we just need that personal coach,
yeah,
basically
you need that
cheerleader and all
touch. It's
that.
not it's not so much coaching. My clients have described it as intense therapy meets really good style.
Wow. Okay. Well, it's beautiful. Wait, we just need to put that on a branding right there. You can put that somewhere on your branding. That's beautiful. Intense therapy plus meets personal style. That is,
But
I'm
they
sold.
don't love
Let's
the
do it.
therapy part because they go, I didn't expect this to be therapy. I thought we were working my brand. I'm like, exactly. That's why it's therapy.
Beautiful.
But I'm not
That's
a
great.
therapist. I don't market
That's
myself
great.
as one. It's just I have to go after certain things,
Of
habits and
course.
behaviors,
Of
which
course.
ends up being kind of like therapy. Because if
Hmm.
we don't go after them, guess what?
Yeah.
If you have a fear, and let's say your fear is rejection,
Hmm.
how are you
Hmm.
going to market yourself on social media?
Yeah.
Because
That's
every
true.
time you're going to post that video, you're going to think, oh my God, what if no one likes it? What if it gets no follows, no likes? What if someone leaves a bad
Yes.
comment? You are going to fear so much rejection, it's going to make you procrastinate and stop you from doing what you have to do to market yourself
Yes.
effectively.
Yes. That's
So
true.
we do that kind of therapy part to get you past that. So then you
Hmm.
can really step into the new part, which is how you look, how you carry yourself, all of those things. And then from there, you're able to create the imagery, the videos, the posts,
Right.
all of that, and
Right.
truly market yourself as who you are, as the persona that you are that others can see and naturally gravitate towards.
That's beautiful, and that's why no wonder people are like, "Wow, what is this? What is this experience that you're putting me through right now?" Because it's such a challenge to embrace that, right? It's one thing to tell people like, "Hey, you got to be true to yourself. You got to embrace these things. You got to be like, in order for you to uh, have a more accurate persona." But it's another thing to actually embrace that. It's difficult. It's not an easy thing for people. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised of all the positive feedback that they've been getting from your therapy, your style therapy, so to speak.
It's true.
um,
One of my clients right now, he is in Dubai and
okay.
we've been going through this process. We're kind of getting to the end of it all. And
Uh-huh.
he's saying like, oh my gosh, I finally see it working. Because we update his LinkedIn, we did a whole bunch of stuff. He goes, I'm getting
Hmm.
traction. People are reaching out to me. I mean, he got
Wow.
offered speaking gigs in the tens of thousands of dollars
Wow.
already.
Beautiful.
And it's
Wow.
working because people are seeing him for who he really is. While before,
Hmm.
the persona that he was putting out wasn't as relatable or warm.
Right.
And
Hmm.
now he comes across as much more relatable, friendly, kind, but very intelligent in what he teaches.
Right.
And it's working. So he's
Wow.
getting such great feedback, and not just from the way he is, but from his images, from the content he has, because we go over all of that, from his pitch, which is the thing that you say that people can really understand what you do in a very short phrase, all of
Yes.
it. So it's working. And I
It's
love it when I
really.
see my clients going through that. One of my other clients, you might know, Dave Asprey,
Oh,
he went through this process recently. And
wow.
Jim Quick, a good friend of Dave's and also a good friend of mine, said that was a multi-million-dollar makeover for Dave
Oh
Asprey
my goodness! Wow.
because everything changed from the way he dresses, the way he cut his hair, the way he carries himself, the way he
Beautiful.
looks on camera. He looks so much younger. And yes, he is young looking from the way that he takes care of himself. But
Uh-huh.
from before to now, the way that the
hmm
photography was done actually made him look older.
Oh
And
wow.
now, simple techniques of how he carries himself, the lighting, things like that, show how he really looks. So if you were to meet him in
Beautiful.
person and then
Wow.
see him in the pictures, there's a better matchup.
Wow. Wow, Sandy. First of all, you are not only helping people gain their confidence, but you are actually making millionaires, multi-millionaires out of all these big people. And you deserve all the praise and all the accolades that you are getting from these clients because it is transformative. Speaking of Jim Quick, you had an episode together, you had a podcast together. Beautiful. I watched
Yes.
the entire thing.
I
I
love
love
Jim.
that.
He's one of the sweetest people I know. He really is. Cause you hear about all these
Mhm,
gurus, you hear about all these people. He doesn't call himself a guru. I'm just saying, but he gets lumped in that category because he's
mhm,
an industry expert and he kind
mhm,
of hangs out with all those people.
mhm,
Out of all of them, and I've met a lot. I'm not going to
mhm,
name all the names, but I've met a plethora of those people.
mhm.
Jim is one of the most honest, kind, and true to what you see.
Wow.
He's not pretending to be someone else.
Wow.
He's not trying to impress you. He's actually
Mhm.
being him.
Wow.
And the more I know him, the more I socialize with him, the more I just fall deeper in love with Jim because he is such a wonderful human being. So
Wow.
I'm really excited when I hear from people, oh, I follow Jim, or I have his books, or I took his programs because
Wow.
he's really fabulous. He actually helped me prepare for my last TEDx.
Oh, really? Just the
Yeah.
recent one at Reno? What's the most
Yes.
recent one? The one at
Yeah,
Reno.
the
Wow.
recent one. He gave me
You were
some tips.
great at that.
He helped me train so I could memorize my script and everything. He's amazing.
He's great. He's great. I'm a huge fan of Jim Quick, and I was so happy that I saw your episode together. I'm like, wow, she was on Jim Quick. She got on Jim Quick. Oh my god! So I had to watch the entire thing. And towards the end, there was something that you said I love, and I think it's important for our audience and listeners who might have the same kind of question because you talked about confidence and arrogance, confidence versus arrogance, and it's very clear that you talked about how you say confidence is knowing you're good at something. It's like knowing that value, that this is what I'm good at, and you reveal it naturally, whereas arrogance is thinking you're good, you're winging it, and you're fucking it up, sorry for my French, and you just blame everyone, right? Talk to us a
Yes.
little bit about that because now you're talking like everything that you've done is not just, again, it's not just photography, it's not just personal branding, it's now drawing that confidence out of people. But how do we keep that guarded? How do we know that we're not being arrogant?
There's a fine line because unfortunately, I have seen far too many people
hmm
make a pivot once they, oh boy, okay, I'm going to call it out what really happened. All right, I've had a
Okay.
few clients, none of them that I've named on the show, none of them
All
that
right.
are
We are
recent. These are
not going to
past
name them.
clients. We're not going to name them. But they went through the branding process. It was earlier on when I was still figuring it all out. They
Okay.
went through the branding process with me and they came out so much better,
Okay.
so drop dead gorgeous,
Okay.
so amazing
hmm
that they pivoted from being confident to being arrogant.
Oh.
And they started using their attractiveness in the way that they are marketing themselves as a weapon of
Oh my
mass
goodness.
distraction, I would like to
Oh.
say, and using it against some people who fell for it.
Oh
And I've
goodness.
seen that. I have seen that in a few of the famous gurus that people like to follow, where
hmm
we like to call it delusional confidence, where
Oh
they
wow.
act really confident, but it's really a
hmm
delusion because deep down inside they're super insecure and they are
hmm
just not
hmm
at all what you think.
hmm
And you have to stay grounded. You
Yes.
have to remember why you started your journey in the first
Yes.
place. If you
Yes.
started the journey for money or for fame or for fortune, you are going to pivot into arrogance. But if you
Right.
started it to truly help people, to
Mm-hmm.
really make a difference for the better
Mm-hmm.
of humanity, the
Mm-hmm.
planet,
Mm-hmm.
and animals, whatever your thing is, but if you are truly there for that reason, then it's easier to stay in a place of confidence than
Right.
switch into that arrogance. But
Right.
if you're after the money, the fame, the fortune, the girls, the guys,
Of course.
whatever it is, you can fall
Validation.
into arrogance very,
Of
very
course.
easily, and it's sad to watch, and it
And it's
never ends
always,
well.
oh, I bet it never ends well because I can only imagine the type of people, the number of people you work with, big people, big name people, and they're all just carrying themselves like clowns. I can imagine that. It must feel depressing. It must feel disappointing because all these people look up to them, and then they're all just
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness. And it goes back
And
to
they're
being.
very lonely. They're
Oh,
very lonely.
I was going to say. I was
I
going to
can't even
say.
tell you how many hugely successful people that I know that are incredibly lonely because
Wow.
their friends aren't their real friends. They're fake
Yes.
friends. And when
Yes.
you see them on podcasts or you see them in interviews, their confidence is just blazing. You're like, oh, I
Yes.
want to be just like this person. And
Mm-hmm.
once the
Mm-hmm.
cameras turn off and they go home, their glass
Uh-oh.
house starts to crash down on them. And it's sad to watch it. And I've seen it
That's
happen
true.
too many times.
Mhm. Right.
So the best advice I can give for anyone
Hmm.
is remember why you started your journey
Right.
and stay
Of
true to
course.
that.
Right.
Have confidence for yourself, but have a
Hmm.
real purpose.
Hmm. Hmm.
Work to help other people. For me now,
Yes.
I could book photo sessions night and day. I have people always, hey, are you available? And I don't do it that same way anymore because I really like helping people find who they are, shift their identity and who they're supposed to be so they can go after that bigger thing. But
Right.
I love helping people. I mean, I'm that girl that if I run into someone on an airplane, I'm going to talk to them the whole flight, telling them all of the tips and trips on the tips on their trip of where they should go, what they should eat, what they should do, what they should avoid. And I have so much fun doing it because I am
Wow.
actually there to help someone. So it's
Wow.
not about me trying to sell them into working with me because I get business from people who truly want to work with me. It's about me really helping people. And when you
Wow.
stay in that place, that space of helping and thinking outside of yourself,
Hmm.
that's when you stay in a true place of confidence. When you
Is it?
start to obsess over your fears and the things that you're insecure about, and what
Yes.
I like to
Yes.
call it endlessly obsessing over yourself.
Ooh.
Actually, the first time I ever heard that was at a Tony Robbins, because I give credit
Okay.
to where credit is due. Tony
Okay.
Robbins said, endless obsession of self. And I thought about that and I was like, what is he talking about?
Wow.
Endlessly obsessing. And he would actually specifically target suicidal people with those
Okay.
words. He said, you're
Wow.
endlessly obsessing. You're so obsessed with yourself that you want to end it and you don't even think about the other people.
Yeah.
And from there, I recognized people constantly endlessly obsess about
That is
themselves.
true. That is true.
Fear of rejection isn't real. It's
Hmm.
endlessly obsessing that someone's going
Yeah.
to reject you,
That's
endlessly
true.
obsessing that you're not going to be good enough. And
Yes.
when you live in that space, you become that. You become
Of
not good
course.
enough.
Of course.
So it's about stepping out of that and really understanding why you're here, what is your journey, and helping other people. And when you stop endlessly obsessing about yourself,
Hmm.
that's where the magic comes into play.
That's beautiful, and it's a funny picture. Like it's an amusing picture to think, to imagine, where you went like endlessly obsessing yourself. What does that mean? And then you start seeing it in all these big name people, and then they're like, okay, that's exactly what he's talking about. And I love because it always comes back to that in check it always comes back to the authenticity, being true to yourself, right? Because being true to your roots and why you did this in the first place. I love how you emphasize that it's fear at the end of the day, it's insecurity, because now they found this new weapon. They'd be like, oh wow, look, attractive, I've been transformed. But instead of actually using that to feed and enrich themselves inside, they're actually weaponizing it to fight their own fears and to to fight their insecurity, which is wrong, because you have to just enrich yourself, and all that fear is just going to fall apart. It's just going to fall away. Sandy, what you do is beautiful. It's really not just branding. I am going to preach it to the world that it's not just branding. It's much
No.
deeper sense of finding yourself, knowing who you truly are, and boosting that confidence. Boosting that confidence is just like a a result of what you do, right? It's confidence comes from knowing who you finally are and embracing that, and that is what you do to people and all the people that you've worked with. Um, it's
And
lovely. It's
Joshua, can I
beautiful.
add one thing? Can I add one thing,
Please,
please?
please.
I've been doing this for a while now, and
Hmm.
I launched my program, Confidence Jam, during the pandemic.
Right.
I watched how it would shift and help people, and I
Hmm.
tried to follow it myself. And then I
Right.
got really, really sick.
Oh.
And the illness that I got, it was in 2022. I was suffering from, believe it or not, parasites, fungus, and bacteria, which were eating me alive from the inside out. I started losing all my hair. I had no energy. I started
Wow.
having thyroid issues, all kinds of problems.
Wow.
And I had to stop my life, stop my program, stop everything,
Right.
and heal myself. I had to focus back on me.
Wow.
And what I recognized from that is that even though we'll work on something, we'll work on our confidence, we'll work on our image, we'll work on how we
Hmm.
treat others,
Hmm.
and we think we're great and we're at the top of our game when it comes to that, you could always relapse.
Of course.
So
Right.
having bad health plunged me into a deep depression. And I
Wow.
thought I had conquered depression. I could never be depressed because I figured it out. I'm at the top of my game. That is so far from the truth.
Wow.
And people don't recognize that your health is the most important thing,
It's very
because if
important.
you're not healthy, you cannot balance yourself.
Of course.
And balance is what's needed to continue that journey and to
Uh-huh.
help others.
Uh-huh.
So I want people to remember that you can find your confidence, you can shift your identity, you can be pushing as hard as you can,
Right.
but you have to also be aware that you have to focus on your health, and
Right.
don't beat yourself up if you fall backwards,
Wow.
because sometimes you might need that reminder of going backwards so you can come out even stronger ahead.
Sandy, again, like what you do is a gift to everyone else, right? And it's a great reminder because we've been talking about all, being better, like confidence, like putting on all out there, but you just reminded us and you put us back into, you kind of just grounded us and said like, wait, but it's not going to be perfect. It's not all going to be perfect. It's not going to be a perfect journey. You are going to fall back. You're going to get sick, but it's also because you maybe need to start taking care of yourself, right? You need to start looking at that. And it's like you found this new confidence in you, but at the end of the day, it goes back to what we just talked about from the very beginning. It goes back to self love, right? It's about taking care of yourself, putting yourself first, because now that you found this new strength inside you, you need to nurture that strength. You need to make sure you are at 100% in order for you to keep that confidence going in your life. Sandy, I want to keep you on longer. I really do. I want to talk more about like, but before we really wrap this up, I have one question which is a little bit on tangent, off tangent rather. You have now, like you said, you're on top of your game. You're helping other people. You are living your life. Talk to us a little bit about that. Talk to us about the adventures that you've had recently and why traveling and what are the most memorable places you've been to.
Oh, wow. I've been to so many places, 50
Oh, wow.
countries, like I said.
Please, please.
I mean, memorable. We decided to leave California in 2020, November
Mhm,
2020 exactly.
mhm.
And we ended up in Dubai, then we went to Bali, then oh gosh, I lose track of all these, Turkey, all these places.
Right,
And I would say now I would consider myself at the top because I have created the life that others only dream of.
there we go. There we go.
And I have made it a point to not say no to opportunities that will
Right,
make my life better. So you hear
right,
of those bucket list dreams, those bucket list things. When one comes up, hey, you want to go to Cambodia this weekend? Yes, I jump on a
yes,
plane and go.
right,
But from doing that since 2020, I've also found that you have to have a balance and you have
right.
to take care of yourself. So
Hmm.
now we've settled here in Thailand for the year,
All right,
and we will still be bouncing around, but now we have a home base here in Thailand because we were literally 2 months here, a month there, 3 months here, a month there, a week there, just bouncing, bouncing, bouncing.
yep,
And now because we're here, I can focus on my health. I can focus on what I need to do to feel truly confident and strong in myself so I can help others
Mm-hmm.
better. But I also
Mm-hmm.
still get that adventure. And along the
Wow.
way, one of the most amazing places, believe it or not, it almost sounds cliche to say it because everyone says it, but I went to Bali
Okay.
and I found not just myself, but some of the greatest friendships of my life.
Wow.
And one of the greatest friendships is with an 80-year-old man. He turns
Oh
80
wow.
this year.
Wow.
And my fiance, Ken, and I, we just fell in love with him and his family and his beautiful Balinese wife.
Wow.
And we are flying back to Bali to celebrate his birthday, which is in like a week and a half.
Wow.
And we just have built these extraordinary relationships that we never could have fathomed ever having. I mean, at what point would you ever say, "Oh, in, 3 years from now, I'm going to be really close besties with an 80-year-old man and his family and hang out and ride elephants in a Bali park,"
Right.
So it's just, there's just so many things that have happened and I'm just
Uh-huh.
really, really happy and I just don't say no. So I experience things, I learn, I grow, and I try to take as many people with me. So again, I'm that girl in
Beautiful.
the airport that will tell you where to go, what to do, and what not to do. And I enjoy it. So if you
Yes.
want any information on where to go or what not to do, I'm your person.
There we go, and we are going to give the audience and listeners the opportunity to connect with you. But I want to point out there again, it's you're at the top of your game, not because you've figured it all out with your business. You're at the top of your game because you've created the life that you want. And if that is not the mission or the goal of everyone in our audience and listeners, everyone in the world, Sandy, I want to wrap up with this question. I always do, and I always ask this way. What does the future look like? What are the future aspirations of Sandy Grigsby? How do you see yourself continuously being the confidence catalyst? Do you see yourself continuing to photograph, to take pictures of people? Do you see yourself going into video? Do you see yourself, living elsewhere? Tell us, what does the future look like for Sandy Grigsby?
The future is one of guiding people along the same journey that I've been on.
Wow.
So, how can you take what you think is going to be forever and just flip it on its head? Pivot your life and do something totally unexpected, but do
Mhm.
it in a way that you're healthy, you're sound, and you are at your maximum level of happiness while
Right.
bringing others along.
Wow.
So I do see myself living in more countries. Like I said, we're going to do Thailand for a year. Who knows where we'll be
Right.
next year? We might still be here. We might be somewhere else. And
That's
we
good.
are going on more adventures. I'm working with some incredible people around the world. Last year I lived in an Italian castle that was 1,200 years old. Who knows where
Mhm.
I'm going to end up later this year?
Right.
So it's about that. And I definitely want to help other people experience the same thing. So if you are thinking about traveling or becoming a nomad or doing something different,
Mhm.
then I would say yes to that.
Wow.
Absolutely. Do what you can, take the plunge, take the risk, and do it. Because the only thing you can say on your deathbed at the end of that journey is that maybe you still didn't do enough.
Oh
But to
my.
say that you didn't do it at all is the
Right.
worst misery.
It's the worst misery. It is. It truly is. And what a fantastic message to leave. Out of all the beautiful messages you've already shared to us today, Sandy, thank you so much for your passion, your enthusiasm, your love, and I'd like to give this opportunity. Where can we find you? Where can we connect with you? Where can we keep up with your travels? Please let us know. Our audience and listeners would love to see more of Sandy Grigsby.
My Instagram is Sandy in Focus. My
Okay.
website is sandyinfocus.com. And
Mm-hmm.
you can follow me on LinkedIn at Sandy Grigsby. And there you can also have access to my LinkedIn learning class. So if you connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a private message, I will send you free 24-hour access to my LinkedIn learning class on how to improve your online image.
All right, that's beautiful. I am going to invite everyone. I will check that out myself, actually. I will invite everyone to do the same and to connect with Sandy. Sandy, it has been a pleasure. I cannot say enough how much of a pleasure this has been. Thank you for your time. Thank you for being on here. Thank you for your energy and all of that. Thank you for being on the show. And to our audience and listeners out there, see you on the next one.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.